Here's the end of it. It ends right about here. This is old. Old. I think the queen may have run up in here. There's a ton of bees right there.
Yeah.
Here's some nasty old comb from a removal. And I'm going to show you guys how to render some usable wax out of this nasty stuff. It's nasty. It's broke it all up. You can see. Very old. Very dark. Some of it's got dead bees from a dead out. We'll grab some of this too. Doesn't everybody feed bees in the front yard? This is my nasty dedicated pot. You can see the mark right there. I like to put about that much water in there, and then the rest is wax. Otherwise, if you do it with no water, you're just gonna burn it. It's gonna make a mess. By the way, do this inside. You can stand the smell. The smell is kind of like brewing beer. If you ever brewed beer, it's similar smell. But if you do it outside, you're gonna attract every bee in the area. You're gonna be swarmed with bees. Not a big deal. Just fill this up. Bring this to the stove. And here's a recommendation. This is electric, so I can do this with electric. If you have a gas stove, you probably won't be able to do this. You have to deal with it, but this is to keep any kind of splashing at a minimum. Actually, it doesn't keep the splashing down, it just keeps the mess down. All right. Then this is going in there. I'll bring you guys back in a second. It fills up. As the water gets hot, obviously it'll melt some. You can squish it down. You can add some more. I'll bring you guys back once this is starting to boil. Okay, one thing you guys are gonna need, or I'm sorry, a few other things you're gonna need. First, assume anything you use for this is done. You don't want to use it for anything else, so don't use your cooking pots for this. Go to a thrift store, go to Goodwill, garage sale, wherever, find yourself a cheap pot, whatever size you want, and that's gonna be your wax melting pot. Then I have another bucket with some water in there, and this piece of hardware cloth. I bent the corners here so I could push it in, and it just sits there like that, like a screen. Then I made this fancy tool with a piece of hardware cloth and a stick. You can see how fancy it is. It's a super custom. What I use this for, you can see there's wax already on it, is once this starts to melt, you have all the cocoons, you have all the random stuff that's in here, you know, probably dead larvae, pollen, whatever, cocoons, everything. As it melts, the wax melts off of it, this starts to break up. What I'll do, and I'll show you guys later, is once it starts to boil, I'll stir it with this, and then I will carefully scoop some of that nastiness out, let it drain, and I put it in here. And so that's what this is for. Periodically I'll go outside and I'll dump this in a metal tray that I have out there, and I'll repeat the process until this is fairly clear, and then I'll take this out and into this bucket, which also the reason I put some water in here is because I don't want to put boiling water in a plastic bucket. I've had them cracked before, and you don't want a bucket of wax and water cracking and making a mess everywhere. So we're still waiting for this to boil. When it does, I'll bring you guys back. I'll show you how we're going to put the rest of this in there, and I'll probably go out and get some more stuff, because you can fit a lot of wax in a pot even this size. Again. Delicious stew. Now with the paper towels, obviously, once this starts to boil, it tends to splash wax on the surface. Not the greatest. That's why I put the paper towels here. You can do aluminum foil if you have fire. I've done this many times with paper towels and on this electric range. Not an issue of fire. But your house, you do what is safe for you. Just because I'm doing it doesn't mean you should. You burn your house down, that's on you. Doesn't that look delicious? Water getting warm. I put that entire bucket already in here, and that's how much there is now. So you can see, you can fit a lot of comb in a small pot. And look at that deliciousness. Okay, that whole bucket went in here. I brought some from this bucket to put in here. You can see this pot is still not full. Once the water gets going, the comb breaks down and just turns to this. It's delicious. There's probably still some honey in here. There's dead bees in here. Like I said earlier, all kinds of nastiness. And it clumps up. You don't want to get this anywhere because it'll make a mess. So that's why I have the tool I showed you guys earlier. Water's still not quite hot enough yet. But this allows me to scoop the stuff up, kind of drain it, and I dump it in there. So I have my whole path covered with paper towels so I don't make a mess. I know you see some spots on my floor because I've been doing this for a couple days now, and a little bit at a time here and there. And I'm not going to clean the floor until I'm done. Otherwise, I just have to keep continuously clean wax off the floor. But you can't avoid the little splashes, so you have to deal with having little spots on your floor for a bit. You can see that is just old randomness that comes with beehives. Looks great, doesn't it? There you can see some larvae. That looks like, see that? That's a wax moth larva. I got that comb just in time, or I'd have been a nice, nasty waxworm mess. The water's starting to boil now, you can see. Looks like a nice cauldron of nasty grossness. But as you can stir it, or as I stir it, excuse me, you'll see that it has that yellow tinge to it. There's your wax. So I keep stirring it to break up all the comb, break up all the cocoons and the nastiness, and just make sure that the wax can melt from everywhere. So I get as much of this wax as possible. And all this is from that dead out small hive removal that I did on that old house where the whole wall was pretty much comb. And I had a 55-gallon bag of it, and then some buckets full, and that stuff you saw in the front porch earlier. That's all from there. And slowly I've been working a little bit at a time to get this rendered out. And here you can see, I don't want it to boil over, so I'm turning the heat down some. And I'm gonna let this go for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna start scooping this stuff out, and I'll show you guys how that looks in just a minute. Okay, here we go. It's time to start scooping some of this off. Let me turn this down a little bit lower. You can see the wax moth larvae. There's a few of them that were floating. Wax moth will generally only stick to broodcomb, and that's what all this black stuff was broodcomb. And if you let it sit too long, they'll make a mess. So I got this just in time. So here we go. We're going to scoop some of this nasty stuff out and let it drain out some. It's delicious looking. Then we'll come to the bucket. Put it in the bucket. and repeat. There's some wax ball. All right, I'm gonna do this about 8 billion times, and I'll bring you guys back when the pot's a little more clear. See, the pot's a little cleaner now. There's still quite a bit of sludge in there, but nowhere near as bad as it was before. And I'm just dumping it in here carefully. Oops, there goes my paper towel. I kind of scrape it. So there's still a bit of wax in here, and that's why I do that. That way the wax will fall in the bucket. That's why the water's in there. And I just keep doing this. I've done this quite a few times already. This is probably gonna be my 3rd trip going out to dump it. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that. Is there an easier way to do this? Probably. Do I know it? No. This is for the broodcomb. The the honeycomb and stuff, you can get away with just boiling it and then filtering it, dumping it into a 5-gallon bucket, waiting for it to cool. The wax will come up to the top and you'll be good. But with broodcomb, no. Because this stuff is nasty. All right, we're gonna take this outside, show you guys how that works out, and just because. So I've just been dumping it in here. So that's all the cocoons and everything left over. The entire bucket, this bucket actually. That's the nastiness left over. And then I'm gonna bring the pot out here. I like to double filter. So I put this guy in there and that guy in there. And I'll move this out here so the splashes go in the grass. All right, here's the pot. See, some of the wax already started to cool, but that's it. Let me just let this sit for a minute, or by a minute I mean for a few hours. I'll just put it right here. I'll put this top on it so the bees won't go in there. Otherwise, don't leave that open because the bees will go in there and die. And once that cools, we'll pull our little plug. I'll show you what those look like. And here's what we'll pull out once that stuff cools. Have a nice disc. The bottoms are always nasty because there's just little particles that fall through the sieves, through the screen, through the grate, whatever. So I'll just wait for them to dry, and once they're dried, I'll take that guy and I just scrape them clean. And then once I get enough of these, I will break them all up and do the same thing, but this time I won't have to worry about the filter or anything else. I'll just melt it all down. I'll probably pour it into this pot, and I'll just let it settle on its own. You'll still have the nastiness on the bottom, but you'll have a nice big fat chunk of wax. And just scrape off the bottom, and you can do that as many times as you want, or you can just do it until you're comfortable, and then you'll have a whole bunch of wax you can use for whatever you want to use wax for. Okay, so I got several batches of wax melted. Put them in that bucket, broke them all up, and I'm putting them slowly in this pot again for another boil. What this second boil will do, as you can see, there's still some nastiness on the bottom of these, and the idea is that this will kind of purify them a little more, and we'll run them through another strainer, put them in another bucket, and then we'll have all that into one huge puck of wax. We'll see how it turns out. This is the ultimate filter for the final rendering. Just an old t-shirt, clamped it in there so it doesn't fall in. And once the wax gets hot enough, it should flow through there. Whatever impurities are left in there will stay in there. And like I said, this is an old ratty t-shirt, and that's it. It's fancy, I know. Okay, now we just pour this in here. Hopefully not make too big a mess. Here goes the sludge. So what does an entire wall of wax look like once it's condensed down? Looks like this. This is my little wax puck. Now, when I was filtering out with the t-shirt, I kind of had a little snafu and dumped it. So the bottom of this is not the cleanest. I'll show you. I had to scrape it off, but I don't really care. It's not like I'm doing anything cosmetic with this wax. It's just going to be just to keep it so I can melt it down and put it on other foundations and things. But that's it. It weighs, I don't know, about 8 or 9 pounds. And there you go. That's how I do it. If you found this video helpful, please click like on there. If you have any feedback on things I could have done better or things that I should have done differently, please let me know. The feedback helps. The comments help. And if you appreciate this kind of video and you want to see some more of it, please feel free to subscribe and click that notification bell, and you'll be able to, sorry, I can't talk today. You'll be notified when new stuff comes open. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.